Pikachu. Do you like Pikachu?
Are you okay, Leah? Is something wrong? Do you need medicine or medical help?
We get to talk about Pikachus today.
Oh, Pikachu.
Yeah, Pikachus.
A pocket monster.
It's a whole article. No, it's an article about animals. And our animal is like a real-life Pikachu.
What are you talking about? Pikachu or Nintendo? It's a cartoon character.
It's like...
Found in videos and games, too, possibly. And you can go out and chase one around Taipei.
Pikachu.
But I don't know what you're talking about. So what are you talking about? Is there an actual animal called a Pikachu?
No, but he's called a Pika.
Oh.
And the Pika are very cute.
Okay.
And they kind of look like Pikachus.
Really?
Well, they don't have the lightning stripes on their back, and they're not yellow.
I guess they're not bright yellow either, yeah.
And they don't sound like Pikachus,
okay.
But, they're...
Apart from that.
Other than that.
But they are actually called a Pika?
Yeah, they are actually called a Pika.
Okay, let's find out more about these animals. This is a new one for me. I thought I'd seen not all, but enough nature documentaries on my TV over the years to have been introduced to a Pika. But isn't that a wonderful thing about the natural world? There are always weird plants and more especially animals and fish out there that you've never heard of that are absolutely fascinating. So let's turn our attention to the wonderful, what was it again?
Pika.
There we go. And we'll go meet it in its native land of, where is it?
Well, it's in lots of places. We'll be talking about that for sure.
I feel very ignorant right now. All right, let's get educated on the Pika by checking out the article.
The real-life Pikachu faces a real threat. With their round bodies, big ears, and cute name, Pikas are often called the real-life Pikachu. Though often mistaken for rodents, Pikas are actually close relatives of rabbits and hares. Pikas typically grow about to 20 centimeters in length, with short limbs and no visible tail. They live in high-altitude regions across North America and Asia, where freezing temperatures and rocks define their world. Luckily, their dense fur helps them survive the cold in these extreme environments. Pikas are known for their calls, which sound surprisingly loud for their size. Their calls resemble the high-pitched cry of a lamb, only much sharper and higher. These communications not only serve as warnings, but also attract potential mates. Beyond their vocal behavior, Pikas impress scientists and nature lovers with their lifestyle. Unlike hibernating animals, Pikas remain active all year round. In summer, they collect and dry grasses, wildflowers, and mosses as food to prepare for the harsh winter. This behavior ensures their survival and demonstrates their ability to adapt to environments with limited resources. Unfortunately, climate change is making life harder for Pikas. With thick fur and high body temperatures, they cannot tolerate heat exceeding 25 degrees Celsius. As global warming intensifies, their cool habitats are shrinking. Human interference further compounds these challenges. On the Tibetan Plateau, large Pika groups are seen as pests that eat grass meant for livestock. In response, the Chinese government has implemented large-scale poisoning campaigns to control their numbers. Many wildlife experts worry about the long-term ecological impact of this practice. Although Pikas as a whole are not classified as endangered, many local populations are quietly disappearing, such as the Ely Pika. Their story reminds us that species loss often begins without notice. Protecting them means acting before decline turns into disappearance. In doing so, we also preserve the delicate mountain habitats they live in. I think I'm just going to spend this whole article going, Pikachu.
No, please don't.
Pika.
Please don't.
With their round bodies, big ears, and cute name, Pikas are often called the real-life Pikachu. So they have cute little round bodies. They have big ears. They're not huge ears. They're not like bad ears or something. And they have a cute name. The cute name is Pika. Pikas are the plural. And they are nicknamed the real-life Pikachu. Though often mistaken for rodents, Pikas are actually close relatives of rabbits and hares. Very, very interesting. So rodents are an order of mammals. So it's a group of mammals. Mammals being critters that give birth to live young. We're mammals. But this particular group, rodents, tend to have a pair of long incisors, upper and bottom. So the front teeth up top and the bottom teeth down below are super long. And that's why they're called rodents. People think that pikas are rodents. They are often mistaken for rodents, but they are actually closer to rabbits and hares, even though their ears aren't as long. What's interesting to me is you see the words rabbits and hares. A lot of times if you grew up in different places, you probably heard one of these or the other and thought they were all the same. But rabbits are normally a little bit smaller. Hares tend to be quite a bit bigger. They're actually, I think, a different species even. And hares almost tend to go to the direction of jackrabbits in places like Texas, the bigger guys with the longer legs and the longer ears, and just they look like monster rabbits or rabbits on steroids.
All right. So this is very interesting. We're getting into, how biologists classify different animals. I guess, rodents and rabbits they're cousins, right? They have the big long teeth, and they kind of use those to gnaw and to chew away at things. But yeah, a little bit different. Rodents would be your typical mice, rats, squirrels, even up to beavers. Rabbits and hares, along with pika, are in the family or the order Lagomorpha. So they would be lagomorphs instead of rodents. And another thing I just read here is that they have a divided upper lip and long back legs. That's pikas, rabbits, and hares. And yeah, when you think about it, rats and mice and squirrels, they don't have the big back legs. And I guess they don't have that cute little divided front lip. The upper lip, if you can think about it, kind of has a line below their nose that kind of cuts it in two. Anyways, that's how you want to identify the difference between a rabbit and a rat in the dark, but if it's useful to you. But anyway, so pikas, yes, they're in there with their rabbits and the hares. Pikas typically grow to about 20 centimeters in length. That's pretty small.
Yeah.
I mean, some rabbits can be quite big, and hares, as you said, also can be even bigger.
Yeah.
So pikas are definitely on the smaller side in this lagomorph family. That's Lagomorph, lagomorphs. So they typically grow to about 20 centimeters in length, so less than a foot in length, with short limbs and no visible tail. Well, rabbits and hares usually have pretty short little tails, cute little tails. But
bushy tails.
Yeah, the pika doesn't have a tail, so nothing visible or nothing you can see. Maybe it's so small it just kind of tucks in there at its bum. They live in high-altitude regions across North America and Asia where freezing temperatures and rocks define their world. This explains why I've never seen them. I avoid high-altitude regions with freezing temperatures. I'm a city guy, and I like to be warm, and I like to breathe oxygen. So high altitude means in the mountains, right? When you think of a high altitude, you're meaning high above the Earth's surface, high above sea level. Planes fly at a high altitude, and of course Mount Everest and any other large mountain will be at a high altitude, so up, many thousands of feet or meters. And this is across North America and Asia, very widely spread. So I guess you can find them in the Rocky Mountains of North America, and then over in Asia, maybe the Himalayas or mountains in sort of China and Russia and other places like that. But basically mountain areas that are cold, freezing temperatures, and rocks define their world. So if anyone ever draws a cute little pika sitting in a grassy field eating a carrot, you know that they've never actually seen a pika, because they would be more likely to be found on a rocky mountain slope eating whatever the heck grows on a rocky mountain slope.
Moss.
That's a good idea. Other pika. I don't know. Anyway, so yeah, they're not going to be found, hopping around your garden stealing your carrots. It says, luckily, their dense fur helps them survive the cold in these extreme environments. Of course, as humans, we would need a nice thick, warm jacket, so they need a nice thick, warm coat or dense, closely packed fur, and it provides the insulation, the heat that they need to live up there because, even though they're rabbits or lagomorphs, they are warm-blooded creatures who need to stay warm.
It says pikas are known for their calls, which sound surprisingly loud for their size. So a call is the noise that an animal makes that it's oftentimes known for. And I looked it up, and it's kind of like,
Ooh, wow.
Somewhere along that line.
Gosh.
And this is a person who likes to listen to what cardinals sound like and then make the sound to see if you can lure cardinals, the birds, the red birds, over to your porch to come and say hi to you. So yeah, I find calls quite interesting. There are professional callers. Did you know that? There are guys.
I remember they used to bring them on a talk show in America every year, and all these students would know how to whistle like birds.
Yeah, or the guys who do the duck calls, right? There'd be duck call competitions.
Okay, well, you should enter one.
No, I definitely should.
Can you do that one again? The Pika call? There it is, the Pika in its natural habitat.
The calls resemble, so they sound like the high-pitched cry of a lamb.
Oh.
So if you think of a lamb, it's like, right? But only much sharper and higher. So yeah, exactly. So it's sharper means at a higher tone, pitch, right? So instead of like a B, you're at a high A sharp or something like that. I don't know. Something along those lines.
Good to know if you ever think of getting a Pika as a pet.
And then you can squeeze it and it goes,
you might find that its call is extremely annoying.
If something resembles something, it means it looks like it, or it sounds like it, or it can possibly smell like it. Like your brother normally will resemble his big brother, or might resemble you, look like you. A lot of times genetics plays a part of it. But it can also just be a lucky happenstance that the call of a Pika and the call of a lamb sound pretty similar. These communications not only serve as warnings, so those calls that they make, but they also say, hey, baby, come over and be my friend. They attract potential mates. So if you're looking for a boyfriend or a girlfriend as a Pika, you're going to go, ah!
Okay, that's what you do on a ladies' night down at the Pika bar.
You make your Pika call.
Okay. Well, beyond their vocal behavior, beyond those cries, those noises they make, that's vocal, like we speak, they make these noises. Pikas impress, so beyond that, apart from that, Pikas impress scientists and nature lovers with their lifestyle. Wow, they have a cool lifestyle. That's both scientists and nature lovers, people who might watch documentaries on TV about them or, travel to these areas to try to see them in the wild, just people who like, the natural world. They're very interested in the lifestyle or how Pikas kind of live. I guess this is kind of socially how they live. Let's find out more. It says, unlike hibernating animals, Pikas remain active all year round. Okay, yeah. There are animals, as I'm sure many people know, that hibernate, that sleep. Mostly they will be sleeping through the cold winter months. They'll eat and eat and eat and eat. During the fall, they'll collect extra food, put on a lot of fat, and then they find a nice place, a cave or a nest or somewhere safe. They wrap themselves up, and they kind of almost go into a coma-like sleep. Their heart rate will drop, their breathing rate will drop, their metabolism will drop, and they'll basically live through the coldest months of the year by sleeping in this almost coma-like state. A lot of people think of bears as hibernating animals. I think now we know that bears don't hibernate. They go into torpor, T-O-R-P-O-R, which is almost like hibernating, but it's more of the deep sleep as opposed to being sort of unconscious or something like that. But there are many other animals. Snakes actually hibernate. We have snakes in North America. They come out, are very active in the warm summer months. And then in the wintertime, they kind of find warm caves and they cluster together in huge numbers and they basically sleep through the wintertime. But Pikas don't. So unlike those types of animals, they're active all year round. So if you go up into the mountains in the middle of January or December, the middle of the cold winter months, they will still be hopping around doing what they do. It says in summer, they collect and dry grasses, wildflowers, and mosses as food to prepare for the harsh winter. Now, this is something a lot of little animals will do. Squirrels are quite famous for collecting nuts and things, and they'll collect them all in their nest and feed on that through the winter when, of course, most of the land is either covered in snow or the trees are not producing things like nuts and berries and whatnot to eat. So they collect all this stuff in the fall months and they have that as their sort of, their food supply basically through the winter.
That's true. And mosses that we're talking about here. So you got the grasses, you got the wildflowers, you got the mosses. Mosses are non-vascular, right?
Ooh.
And they're spore-bearing.
It's a type of plant, a very simple plant.
They kind of just grow in these wet or dark areas and thrive there. And if you're drying them out, you're probably going to have to chew them off of the rock that they grow on or the tree that they grow on and then take it home and let it dry. And that will help you prepare for the harsh, the difficult winter. It means it's not a simple winter. It's not like, all right, let's go to the beach this winter. No, it's cold. This behavior guarantees their survival and shows their ability to adapt to environments with limited resources. Demonstrates just means to to show. If I demonstrate an ability, a lot of times that's the way it can be put together, then I am showing that I have a certain ability. But for example, you might go to basketball camp to demonstrate your ability to dribble and shoot baskets very, very well. And after going through the camp, you might be able to demonstrate this ability on the school team by showing your coach and the school team that you'd be really, really good on the school team. And this is just demonstrating their ability to adapt. Someone who helps us adapt all the time is our Chinese teacher. Let's listen now.
Hello everyone, 我是 Patrick. 今天讲解的是 The Real Life Pikachu Faces a Real Threat. 好，这个单元是文意选填的练习题，内容介绍的是生长在高海拔地区的 Pikas 鼠兔，长相非常的可爱哦，算是呢我们现实世界当中真人版，抱歉不能说真人版，应该呢说是在动物界最像这个皮卡丘的鼠兔，它们的叫声很特别，长相很可爱，而且生活习惯也相当独特。在主题解说前，老师一样要提醒大家，答题的时候呢，先看一下选项，把它们的词性标出来。虽然有些字词性不止一种，不过呢，如果你知道它的词性，接下来我们分析句子的时候，看到空格要填哪个词性的时候，就比较容易筛选了。好，那我们来看第一题，段落开头提问：鼠兔有着圆滚滚的身体、大大的耳朵、可爱的名字，很多人会称这就是真实版的皮卡丘。接着我们看到题干哦 ，The often mistaken for rodents。好，这里所指的是，虽然经常被误认为是啮齿动物，但是鼠兔实际上是兔子还有野兔亲近的空格。我们知道 of 表示所有格，前面必须要是名词，这边从上下文推测是要说明鼠兔和兔子野兔的关系，所以第一题正确答案是 H relatives 亲戚，表示鼠兔实际上是兔子和野兔的近亲。我们紧接着看第二题，鼠兔的体长大约20公分左右，四肢短小，没有明显的尾巴。这次题干说它们生活在北美和亚洲的高海拔空格，那里严寒的气温和岩石构成了鼠兔的世界。Live in 居住于，介系词 in 后面呢应该要有表达居住地的名词，我们需要找个名词补进去，考量文意前后连贯，那我们选 E regions 区域。第二题呢，正确答案就是 E。好，再来紧接着看第三题，幸运的是它们空格皮毛帮助它们在极端环境当中抵御寒冷，而且呢生存下来。所有格 there 之后，名词 fur 皮毛之前可以放形容词修饰，所以第三题答案选 A dense 浓密的。接着看第四题，请看第二段，鼠兔因为呢叫声，所以而出名哦。相对于体型来说，叫声呢响亮的令人惊讶，它们的叫声呢有点类似像小羊尖锐的叫声，只是更加锐利、更高亢。这些叫声不仅空格警告，还能吸引潜在的配偶，因为双词连接词 not only but also 也是对等连接词，所以前后词性要对等，后面是动词 attract 吸引，所以空格也必须是动词，而且要能够和 warnings 警告一起搭配。那因此呢，我们选 I serve as 表示这些叫声除了作为警告，也有其他用途。第四题答案选 I。 再来我们看第五题，请看第三段 Beyond there 空格 behavior， 空格前面是所有格 there， 后面是 behavior 行为，空格应该只能填形容词，修饰后面的 behavior。 考量前后文意，我们选 D vocal 声音的。第五题答案选 D， 表示除了声音行为之外，鼠兔的生活方式也让科学家还有大自然爱好者印象深刻，和会冬眠的动物是不一样的。鼠兔全年都很活跃，在夏天呢，他们会采集而且晒干草、野花还有苔藓，作为冬天的时候的粮食。那再来看到第六题， This behavior ensures their survival and demonstrates their ability to 空格。空格前面的 to 是不定词，后面要加原形动词，表示属兔有能力可以做什么。那我们选 B adapt to 表示这种行为确保了属兔的生存，也展现出属兔虽然资源有限，但有能力适应环境。所以第6题选 B。
All right, we're going to take a quick break and then we'll be right back. Unfortunately, that's always a great way to start a paragraph, isn't it? Unfortunately, we've talked about all these interesting and good things about pikas before, but there's something not so great, and that thing makes it unlucky or too bad, and that's what unfortunately means. It's like, however, but in a bad way.
Bad news coming.
Right. Climate change.
Ah, there we go.
That's a good thing to talk about being bad news, right? So climate change is changing the lifestyles of a lot of critters out there, and for pikas, it's making life harder. With thick fur and high body temperatures, they cannot tolerate heat exceeding 25 degrees Celsius. So we already talked about that dense, thick fur they have to help them, keep warm. However, that can be a detriment. It can be bad for them when the temperatures outside get warmer and warmer because of climate change, because the average temperature of in an area over a general period gets higher or hotter, and that often comes because of climate change. Lots of things happen because of climate change. High body temperatures as well, they have that, and that means they cannot tolerate, they cannot bear, they cannot deal with, they cannot, get through any kind of heat that is higher than, that exceeds 25 degrees Celsius. You often will say, I cannot tolerate rude people. I cannot tolerate the cold. It means I cannot handle it. I can't deal with it. It's too much for me. So if someone's rude, I don't tolerate rude people. Exceeding, a lot of times if you think of exceeding, anything that goes over will exceed. It's more than is necessary or more than is allowed. If you exceed the speed limit when you're driving your car, you will find out very quickly that it's not allowed because you could get a ticket.
All right. So they can't live in warm places, and if the world is getting warmer, this is bad news for the pika. As it says, as global warming or climate change, the rising temperatures worldwide, as it intensifies or gets stronger and more powerful, as we've seen, the temperature of certain parts of the world is increasing much faster than other parts of the world. And in general, though, around the world, global warming is intensifying. It's getting more powerful. The effects are getting more noticeable and are changing faster and faster. So as global warming, in other words, just becomes worse in the case of global warming, right? Because as the planet globes, it is bad news. Their cool habitats are shrinking. The cool parts of these mountain areas where pika formerly made their homes, these are becoming warm areas in the mountains, and that's no good for the pika. Human interference further compounds these challenges. Yeah, so animals, of course, are dealing with changing temperatures and changing climate. They're also dealing with more and more people building land, building things in the areas that the animals used to be able to live in quite peacefully without being bothered. But human interference, humans causing more problems for the pika is another challenge. One place that we find them on the Tibetan Plateau. So yes, this would be in the Himalayas, that huge mountain range between basically India and China, where we find Tibet, we find Nepal, and other countries. So in that area, in the Himalayas, large pika groups are seen as pests that eat grass meant for livestock. So there are farmers up there. They are trying to raise livestock. Livestock are the animals that farmers will raise on their farms. So things like pigs and sheep and goats and chickens and cows and horses and things like that. Anything that they're raising to either use for food or to get food from, in the case of farmers with milk cows, dairy cows, or even if you're raising horses to sell, you could call that livestock as well. So farmers that are raising these animals are seeing the pika as pests. They're competitors for the grass that the pigs and the sheep and other animals are supposed to be eating. A pest is a sort of animal that is coming into an environment where humans are trying to use it, and it's causing problems. In your home, ants or cockroaches could be a pest in your kitchen. They could be bigger pests like mice or rats and things like that. These are things that we don't want around where we are. They could be eating our food. They could be carrying diseases into these areas. And we do a lot to try to get rid of them. We catch them. We poison them. We have cats around to eat them if they're mice or rats, things like that. So pests or anything that's kind of bothering you, from a small little insect to something really big that is causing a major problem in a whole country. Or it could just be that little mosquito that's flying around trying to drink your blood in the middle of the night. It's a pest. It's an animal that is annoying you and causing problems. So they're eating the grass that the farmers want their animals to be eating. So what are they going to do to the pika? Ask them to please not eat the grass?
Please don't eat the grass.
I don't know if that would work.
No, I don't think that's what's going to happen. So the Chinese government has stepped in, which is one of the areas where the pikas can be found, is Chinese land. And the government is implementing something. They are putting into effect something. And it's not just something locally, something in a small little place. It's large-scale poisoning campaigns. Not just a small thing, but large scale. So over a large area or in many different areas, they are doing these poisoning campaigns. So here you go, guys. Here's some poison. You can kill your pikas. And the goal with that is to control their numbers. A lot of times countries will do this to deal with something that is being seen as being a pest. I believe Australia has done that with rabbits at different times because they're just everywhere. And there's a joke about multiplying like rabbits, so that rabbits tend to have lots of babies. And I guess you have to control their numbers. And if you have to control their numbers, killing them with poison is one way to do it. Another way would be like if there's a lot of deer in an area, then you get a hunting license and you have the right to shoot a certain number of deer in a season to control the number of deer in that area, so they're not just taking over the area. Many wildlife experts, so guys who go out and analyze wildlife and go, well, we know a lot about wildlife, they worry about the long-term ecological impact of this practice. Although pikas as a whole are not classified as endangered, many local populations are quietly disappearing, such as the Ely pika. So they're not classified as endangered. There are different classifications like extinct and such like that. And here endangered is another one. Endangered normally is a label when the population of an animal is small in numbers, with a significant possibility that they could reach extinction, the classification, the label of extinction. You can also be endangered in a situation when you are in danger. You could possibly be harmed, or you could get lost, or you could be unsuccessful in something you're doing. Then you might say, oh, my position here is a bit endangered. However, here we're talking about endangered populations, and one of them is the Ely pika. As far as I understand, Ely is a river, about an 800-mile-something river in China, Kazakhstan, and those pika are quietly disappearing. They're just going away. Nobody maybe knows why, or these large-scale poisoning campaigns by China are very effective.
Oh, dear. So their story, the story of the Ely pika, could become the story for other forms of this animal. So their story reminds us that species loss often begins without notice. That's right. Animals don't have a 911 number they can call and say, there aren't many of us left. Help. We'll just notice it when we notice that there aren't any more where they used to be. And by then it's usually too late to try to save them and bring them back. So species loss, or species, these types of animals dying out, it often begins without notice. It's often too late before we notice it. Protecting them means acting before decline turns into disappearance. Very good advice. Also, often good advice for lots of things. It's too late to keep your teeth clean once you're at the doctor's office getting your cavities filled. You got to brush your teeth and floss to avoid that, because once it gets that bad, it's too late. So protecting the pika and any other endangered animal or threatened animal needs to be done now before decline. Decline is that falling number, right? When something declines, it goes down. The number of people traveling will decline in the fall from the high levels of travel and tourism during the summer. The number will go down. Increase, I guess, would be the opposite in this case. We could also use incline, but this is more like talking about something going down in number or amount. A decline in number and an increase in number means that number is getting bigger again. So before the decline, before the falling numbers of pika turns into disappearance, before we get down to basically there are no more wild pika, they're only in zoos like we have with certain species like the rhinoceros. I think the white rhinoceros, right? There are no more in the wild, only in zoos. In doing so, we also preserve the delicate mountain habitats they live in. So by helping the pika, we're also helping the entire environment in these sort of high altitude parts of the world that they live in. And that will be good not just for the pika, but for anyone and any animal that lives in those areas.
Someone who's good for us? Our Chinese teacher. Let's listen now.
再来看到第7题，请看第4段。不幸的是，气候变迁让鼠兔的生存变得更加艰难。由于拥有厚实的皮毛，还有比较高的体温，它们无法忍受超过摄氏25度的气温。随着全球暖化加剧，它们凉爽的栖息地也在缩小。接着，请看第7题题干 human 空格这边哦。好，主要动词呢是 compound， 意思是make something worse。那本来就不好的事情 ，you make it worse， 我们就可以用 compound 这个动词。那 compounds 前面是主词，只有名词可以当主词，考量和 human 的词语搭配以及前后文，我们选 C interference 介入干预。那表示人类的干预让这个问题呢雪上加霜，所以第7题选 C。再来看第8题。前面句子提到，在西藏高原上，大群鼠兔常常呢都被视为有害的动物，因为它们会抢吃原本要留给牲畜食用的草。接着是第8题题干 in response 后面这边。好，那主词 the Chinese government 中国政府之后，有助动词 has， 空格应该是过去分词，才能够构成现在完成式。我们选 G。implemented 执行实施，表示呢为此中国政府实施了大规模的毒杀活动，以控制鼠兔的数量。第8题选 G。 紧接着是第9题，请看第5段。那空格前有 be 动词 80% 呢是加上过去分词构成被动语态。如果选 J classify 表示虽然鼠兔整体而言并没有被列为濒临绝种的，但许多当地族群正在悄悄消失，比方说伊犁鼠兔。那语义通顺，所以第9题选 J。 最后第10题，鼠兔的故事提醒我们，后面是 that 所引导的名词子句，动词是 begins， 因此空格应该是主词位置，我们要找出名词，空格填入 F loss 和 species 组合起来，意思是物种绝迹。好，所以第10题答案选 F。 以上就是我们针对文意选填所做的中文解题。See you next time.
All right, everybody, for English Digest, I'm Leah.
And I'm Mike.
Take care.
Bye-bye.